Hey everyone, so this is kind of a hidden place, and I don't know, for those of you who are members of this church or who have been here for a long time, I don't even know if you know where I am in the church, but I am on church grounds right now. For those of you that don't know where this is, it's in between kind of the hallway that goes down to the CE wing and our fellowship hall. It's this little courtyard out here, and it's kind of this hidden place in the church. Some of our church members, a couple of our church members have been doing some work out here, and they've got it looking really beautiful. And as I was thinking about a place to do a devotional, I thought this would be a wonderful place. And it lent itself to something that I think I don't really have enough of in my life. I mean, I love this place, and yet I really don't come out here very often, and I'm not really sure why, except for the fact that, you know what, sometimes we get so busy we don't find these places of quiet, these places of silence. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, this idea of silence. I think for a lot of us, there's just not enough silence in our life. And as I'm sitting out here right now, I can hear over on the other side in Grand River, I can hear some of the noise of the cars, and I can hear the sound of an air conditioner going, but for the most part, mostly what I hear here is my own voice and just the silence of being out in nature. Now I know for some of you, silence is something that you may feel you have too much of, and sometimes that kind of silence can make us feel lonely. For others of us, there just isn't any time of silence because we're so busy and we're so haggard that we just don't take the time for silence. But I found a psalm that had what I felt was some interesting thoughts on silence. This comes from Psalm 62, and it's listed here in my particular translation of the Bible as a song of trust in God alone. But I like what it says about silence because essentially it repeats the same words twice, but with a subtle difference that I think talk about something that silence gives us. And so the psalmist writes this in Psalm 62, verses 1 and 2. For God alone my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall never be shaken. And then again in verse 5. For God alone my soul waits in silence. For my hope is from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. You know, there's two different thoughts that are there as this person who writes this psalm, perhaps David, writes this psalm about his soul waiting in a time of silence. That time of silence is the place where he is waiting for the God for whom his salvation comes, but also the God who gives him hope. This idea of sitting in silence as a way of understanding and finding our place of salvation. Sitting in silence as a place to find our hope in the God who gives us life. You know, that's something that silence may do that other things don't do. You know, a lot of us anyway are searching for that presence of God in our lives, that place where we can really feel the closeness of God. And we try to do it in worship, and sometimes that works, and we try to do it in Bible study, and sometimes that works, and we try to do it in conversation with brother and sister Christians, and sometimes that works. But you know, maybe one of the things that we need to do more often is to sit in silence and to contemplate the God who gave us life and this God who brings us salvation and hope. So yeah, silence is something that could be very elusive for some of us and maybe overwhelming for others of us. But it also might be that place where God speaks to our souls. Does God speak to our soul in silence? In silence, where there are no words, and there are no sounds to fill the presence that we are experiencing with God. Perhaps that's the challenge this week. Find a place not of loneliness, but of silence, because the presence of God just might be in the midst of that quiet moment.